Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of Warhammer the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th Edition battle reports, and this is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air and yours truly. My friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air is bringing his army, the Avelorn Guards, which is basically a 3,000 point High Elf army, and I am of course bringing my Fellhold Nations, my 3,000 point Dwarf army. So I'm really excited about this one. It's the second time I get to use my Dwarves in a battle report, so I'm really excited to see exactly what my army can do and what kind of things it can bring about on the battlefield. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this one, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Alright, so the scenario that we're playing on this one is your typical battle line scenario. It consists of 6 turns with standard victory points as well as standard deployment as always. We are playing on a 4x6 table. My friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air is deployed on the near side of the table and I'm deployed on the far side of the table. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the battle plan for this one. Here's an overhead shot of the entire battlefield, so let's go ahead and talk about what my scheme of maneuver is for this one. As you can see, I am deployed on the far side of the table, and I'm going to try this tactic idea that I had. It was just kind of like a musing I had when it came to deploying your armies. One of the things I've always wondered is how come you never put your war machines in front of your main lines? The way I figure it is that if I put my war machines in front of my main lines, like you can see in this picture here, they have better access to shooting at my opponent. I can also give them better bonuses with my engineers, and at the same time, if my opponent makes it into close combat with me, he's got to charge through my war machines first before he can get to my main infantry units. That way I can kind of boggle them up for a turn. Hopefully I can outflank him and also destroy him at the same time. That was kind of the idea that I came up with when I decided to use my war machines and kind of deploy them up in front of my army like this. So that's pretty much what my plan is. My opponent, Fresh Prince Bel-Air, is playing a High Elf army, so I do know that he moves very, very quickly. So what I have to worry about is him attacking my flanks, not so much my main battle line. Because he is such a quick army, he can quickly outmaneuver me on the battlefield. So what my plan is to try to secure my flanks with my shooting on my right hand side, with my heavy hitting elite choices on my left hand side, keep my war machines towards the center of my army with my main battle line of dwarf warriors, and hopefully just shoot my opponent to pieces. By the time he crosses the battlefield, I can finish him off in close combat. And that's pretty much the plan I'm kind of going with on this one. So with the battle plan over with, let's go ahead and talk about deployment real quick. Starting off on the left hand side for the High Elves, you have Rosum Laenel as well as Pyrium. Rosum Laenel is a level 2 Lore of Fire Dragon Mage. He's on top of a Sun Dragon. He's over here on the left hand side right behind that ruined building, so that way I don't shoot in pieces with my war machines. And then right in front of him, about 12 inches ahead of him, is Vanguard up a unit of 5 Illyrian Reavers. These are the Word Bearers, and he's deploying this way so that way they can, of course, chaff my army, shoot at my war machines, typical advanced scouts type of maneuvering. And that makes up my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air's left hand flank. And making up his main center line of his army, right on the left hand side is Lord Tyrion and as well as his retinue. That's the general of his army. Also located in that unit as well as Danny of Two Souls. He's a level 2 Lord of Beast High Elf Mage. He's also mounted on an Elven Steed with the Barding. And he's also got 8 Silverhelm Knights with full command and lances in that unit as well. So a pretty hard-hitting cavalry unit. And then over on the right-hand side, he has the majority of his infantry units. Starting off on the left-hand side, that is the Lore Master's Blades. It is a unit of 20 Sword Masters of Hoeth. Inside that unit is also Teclis, who's of course the special character, so I got to worry about magic on this one. Also on the right hand side too is the Everwardens. It is a unit of 23 High Elf Spearmen. He also has his character Tanis Laydell, the commander of the Everwatch. I believe he's his battle standard bearer who has the crown of command as well. And then right behind them is the Sad Flutes, which is a unit of 24 archers with full command. And that makes up my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air's center battle line. And make up his right hand flank. You can kind of see him, they're kind of obscured by the tower, so I do apologize for that. But right beneath the tower, there's a unit of 15 white lines of trace with full command. That unit's called the Everqueen's Rangers. And around the top of the tower are the Falling Leaves of Avelorn, which are 2 Eagle Claw bolt throwers. And that pretty much makes up Fresh Prince Bel-Air's right hand flank. Now onto my deployment. On the far left hand side I have Bugman's Rangers. Leading is Joseph Bugman, the special character. I have 19 Rangers. They're armed with crossbows, great weapons, as well as throwing axes and shield. They also have heavy armor. And these guys are located on the left hand side to intercept the dragon that's on the left hand side of my opponent's army. And the reason why is because these guys have immune to psychology so long as Joseph Bugman is with them. Plus they have high strength attacks and pretty good toughness and weapon skill. So if anything's going to take on that dragon in close combat, it's going to have to be Joseph Bugman as his Rangers. So that makes up the unit here on the left hand flank. Making up the center of my army on the left hand side, that is Clan Greymane, the Chosen of Valaya. That is a unit of 20 hammers. In that unit as well is Ragnar the Spellbreaker. I'm sorry, not Ragnar Spellbreaker, that's Torstig Blackstar. He's my rune smith. He's also got 1 level rune of breaking as spell breaking as well. Then he has got full command. I also have the Master Rune of Valaya as the standard for that one, so I get +2 to my dispel rolls. So like I said before, pretty heavy hitting elite choices down the left hand side of that unit of hammers, trying to secure against that dragon. Right in the center, you can see that battle plan idea that I originally had. In the back you have, of course, Clan Roadsulker, the Cursed Company, a huge unit of 37 dwarf warriors armed with hand weapons and shield with full command. I also have Ragnar the Spellbreaker on the left hand side. That is my runesmith with 2 levels, 2 runes of spell breaking. I also have my general Yorick, the Lord of not Yorick, I'm sorry. Ivar Bodison, he's the Dwarf Lord. He's on Shield Bearers. He's got the 2 runes of Fortitude and Rune of Iron as well. He's also armed with a great weapon with the Rune of Parrying. I also have my hero, who's also a Thane. That's the Battle Standard Bearer. That is Yorick Shadow Shield. He's standing on an Oath Stone, and he also has, I believe it's the Banner of Grugny, so that way this unit has some ward saves against range attacks. And as you can see up in the front, I have the Sorrows of Eld, which is my great cannon. I also have the Decemberist on the right hand side, which is my organ gun, and they're there to kind of act as a speed bump and as well to put in some long range fire upon my opponent. So that way if he does try to charge my battle lines, he has to go up against those war machines first, kind of buying me some extra time to prepare myself, and that way I can finish him off in close combat. So that makes up the deployment on the center portion of my army. And finally, my right hand flank, starting in the back, that is the Rememberer. It is my Grudge Sword. It's got a Rune of Penetrating on it. Right up front, I have Clan Helheim, the Fallen of the Dragonbacks. That's a unit of 17 Dwarf Thunderers with full command. I also have the special character Grimlock Burluxon, who's in the front there, who's the engineer, so that way he can lend his ballistic skill upon my Decemberist of Winter's Past, as well as all the war machines within 3 inches of him. And then on the far right hand side, that is Clan Izmir. That is a unit Vengeful. There's a unit of 18 Quarrelers with full command. They also have great weapons and shields, if I remember correctly. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for my army on this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and my friend and I roll off to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes us to the top of turn number 1, and my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air manages to secure the initiative on this one. So this photo is taken after the movement phase, and as you can see, there has been quite a bit of dramatic movement from my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air as well as his High Elves. He doesn't declare any charges because he's too out of range in order to get anything, but he does start moving his forces as quickly as he can across the battlefield. Starting off on the left-hand side, you can see that Rosalind Imperium, the Dragon Mage of Kaldor. He kind of did a march fly across the battlefield from behind the ruins over the left-hand side to that forest on the left-hand side, putting the pressure on my left-hand flank. By doing this, he also made sure that my war machines will not be able to target him because the forest kind of obscure him in cover, so I have to worry about that part. At the same time, he also marches up his word bearers, the 5 Illyrian Reavers. He moves them right directly, I think 4 inches away from my great cannon, as well as my organ gun, so that way he's kind of using his Illyrian Reavers as kind of like human shields in order to absorb any shots that might be coming their way. Meanwhile, the rest of his military forces start marching forward, starting off with Tyrion as well as Tyrion's retinue. They march up 18 inches from their main battle line, or around that forest there, towards the center of the battlefield. At the same time, Fresh Prince Bel-Air also taps his Swordmasters, his Spearmen from the Everwardens, the Lordmaster's Blades, as well as the Evergreen Rangers, marches them up 10 inches forward as well to get across the battlefield as quickly as he can. At the same time, he also keeps Teclis, if you notice, right behind that little hut there, so that way he's obscured from any war machines as well. At the same time, right behind him with his our unit of archers, the sad flutes. Those guys just move up their normal 5 inches, so that way they have in better range to fire their longbows, because longbows have a 30-inch range. And that pretty much makes up his movement for this one. Here's a close-up of Ross and Laenel as well as Perium, so I'm kind of worried about that Dragon Mage of Kaldor because those are some serious threats. The only thing I could really throw at him really is Bugman's Rangers, which is located on the left-hand flank of my army, so I'm going to have to maneuver to try to intercept him because if that guy manages to get to my main battle line, he's just going to flank all my forces, and it could be a bad day for my troops if I'm not careful. At the same time, here's a close-up of his cavalry models. Fresh Prince Bel-Air moving up the word bearers to absorb the cannon and organ gun shots. He also right behind them is Lord Tyrion, as well as his Tyrion's retinue, the Silverhelm Knights, as well as Diani the Two Souls. That's the Beast Lord Mage, who's also in that unit, moves him up to the middle of the battlefield, setting themselves up for a nice charge towards my left-hand flank. And here's a close-up of his military forces for infantry marching up forward into the middle of that village. As you can see, my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air is putting the pressure on my flanks. It looks like what he's going to try to do is try to engage me on the flanks, destroy my units there, and then try to meet in the middle and try to get me into a pincer attack. So I have to look out for that. You can see the Lord Master's Blades and Teclis on the left-hand side, the Everwardens with his Battle Standard Bearer, Tanis Laenel in the center, and on the right-hand side is the Everqueen's Rangers, which is the unit of 15 White Lions of Trace. And finally, here is a close-up of his archers from the Sad Flutes moving up forward so that way they can get in better range with their longbows. And of course, his falling leads Avelorn, they don't move because they are war machines. We skipped the magic phase on this one. That's because when my buddy rolled for his magic dice, he only rolled, I think, a 3, a 2, and a 1. So when he gets 3 magic dice, he was unable to channel any more additional magic dice beyond that. However, I was able to channel 2 more as well, so because of that, I actually kind of exceeded him in the number of dice that he had. When combined with my Master Rune of Valaya, as well as my spell breaking runes, he was unable to get any of his spells off, so because of that, we skip the magic phase and go straight to shooting. And during the shooting phase, my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air's shots were pretty much uneventful. The first thing he does, he targets my clan Hellhind of the Fall of the Dragonbacks. He takes aims of the bows from his Illyrian Reavers on the left-hand side, as well as his Sad Flutes, and concentrate fires in that unit. They do manage to kill 2 of my handgunners, but that's pretty much it. Dwarf toughness against strength 3 missile attacks will win the day no matter what, so I was pretty happy to see that happen because my dwarves are pretty tough that way. However, when it came to his bolt throwers, he took aim with both of his falling leads at Avelorn, and both Eagle Claw bolt throwers hit my organ gun. The first one managed to hit and managed to inflict 1 wound. The second one managed to put 3 wounds on my organ gun, and just like that, the Decemberist of Winter Past just explodes. Luckily for me though, all my dwarves passed their panic check for unit being destroyed within 12 inches, so they all hold their ground, but it's still kind of sad because now my organ gun is taken out of action, and that's a pretty devastating war machine, and I can understand why my friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air did it, because that organ gun can destroy entire units, especially if you combine it with the ballistic skill from Grim Borlaxon, who's right next to it. So with the shooting phase over with, we skip combat phase because nobody's engaged in close combat, and we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the dwarves. So this is a photo of the bottom of turn number 1 for the dwarves. As you can see, not much movement really took place because I am a dwarf player. There is no real reason for me to do any moving, so because of that, not much movement really takes place for most of my battle lines. The first thing I do though, because it's the beginning of my turn, I do roll the liquid fortification for Bugman's Rangers because every friendly turn I roll 2d6 and I combine the total to see what kind of results I get. They can either be stubborn or flammable if I get a really bad roll, or if I get a really good roll, like I did in this case, they get +1 to their toughness. So if they got the leathered special rules, so because of that, they're now toughness 5 dwarves, which is really good because that dragon is toughness strength 5 for Pyrium, the sun dragon, so it makes it a little bit harder to defeat. At the same time, I also rolled for my Ancestral Grudge ability, which is a special rule my entire army uses, and I rolled a 5, getting Seething Score to settle, which means that all friendly models with the Ancestral Grudge special rule have Hatred special rule against all models in the enemy army, which means that all my units now have Hatred against High Elves, which is going to be very, very helpful because when I get in close combat, that's going to allow me to re-roll misses in the very first round of combat, so that's pretty awesome as well. Now, when it comes to the actual movement, not really much happens. The only movement I really do on the far left-hand side with Bugman's Rangers, I kind of turn them back and angle them such a way so that way they're staring straight down the barrel at Rossum Laenel and Pyrium, the Caldor Dragon Mage on the left-hand side, because I had to defend my left-hand flank against it. At the same time, I also move up and march Clan Greymane, the Chosen Valaya, which is my unit of Dwarf Hammerers. I move them up there into the stopgap between my cannon on the right-hand side and that forest on the left-hand side to protect my flanks. Because I have the sneaking suspicion that my opponent is going to charge forward with his knights. And so my plan is hopefully I can kind of block him from getting to the left-hand flank of my Dwarf Warriors in the center of my battle line. And so that's why I kind of did that, to kind of plug that hole so that way he can't flank into my troops. At the same time, for the rest of my infantry units, the Clan Helheim, my Thunderers, Clan Izmir, my Quarlers, those guys all stay put because they have a move or fire weapons for their missile weapons, and I plan on doing some good long-range shooting with those guys. And that pretty much makes up the movement phase for this one. And here's a close-up of the movement phase. As you can see, Bugman's Ranger has positioned themselves into the left-hand flank to ready to intercept the dragon. At the same time, I also moved up my Clan Greymane to intercept the Silverhelm Knights as they come charging forward. And that's only the real movement I really have for my army. So with the movement phase over with, we skip the magic phase because I play dwarves and we don't use magic, and we go to the dwarves' real magic phase, which is the shooting phase. In the shooting phase, the first thing I do is I take aim with the Rememberer, which is my grudge thrower, and I manage to shoot. And not only do I manage, and I put the template directly over Teclis's head for the Lord Master's blades, as well as Teclis's special character. When I rolled the scatter dice to see how far it would go off target, it actually rolled a hit. So because of that, my template lands smack dab right in the middle of Teclis. He's in the center of the hole, so he'll get the strength 10 hit, which would be really devastating because my Rememberer also has the penetrating rune, which means now that all my other strength attacks go up by 1. So now that's a strength 10 hit directly on him, causing d6 wounds, and everything else is a strength 4 hit against the other 8 remaining sword masters, which is absolutely fantastic to see that take place. And not only do I manage to hit and wound Teclis, I also managed to cause 4 wounds onto that guy, so just like that, snap, my opponent's magic user for his army is now dead, which nets me a whole lot of points at the same time. At the same time, I also managed to kill 5 sword masters, which is kind of nice as well, dropping this guy down by a quarter, so that part was pretty epic as well. However, when it comes to the panic test to see if they flee, they are High Elves, and High Elf leadership is, amazing, so because of that, they don't go anywhere. But it was well worth it because I managed to kill Teclis, and that was all I needed to do because that guy's a serious threat when it comes to the magic phase. And because I'm a little sore and feeling petty from the fact that they destroyed my organ gun, I take aim with the Sorrows of Eld, and I do a grape shot against that unit of Illyrian Reavers. I think I managed to roll 8 hits on that unit, just tore through those Illyrian Reavers and just absolutely destroyed them to the last man, so that part's kind of nice. Which also frees up my front ranks as well as my cannon to do some good long-range shooting and cause some damage later on. And finally, in the shooting phase, I concentrate fire with Clan Izmir, my Quarlers, as well as Clan Helheim, my Thunderers, and they open up and just pour all kinds of armor-piercing goodness and directly into the Everwardens. And as you can see in this photo, this original unit had 24 spearmen inside of it, and by the time I got done chopping it down, it only has 9 of them left, which is absolutely atrocious to see the amount of damage these guys took from shooting. It's just because these guys are packing light armor and shields, so they don't really have any good armor saves, they have no ward saves to speak of, and I'm firing strength 4 shots, which also have armor piercing, which is amazing, especially for the handguns anyways, for the armor piercing part. I just absolutely shredded this unit down to its base elements. Unfortunately for me, the High Elves do stick and they don't really worry about panic because High Elf leadership is amazing, but at the same time though, I just pretty much neutered that unit. All I gotta worry about now is the battle standard bearer, and after that everything will be peachy. But with the shooting phase over with, we don't go into the combat phase because nobody's engaged in close combat, so we go directly to the top at turn number 2 for the High Elves. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the High Elves. This photo is taken after the move phase, and as you can see in this photo, there's been a lot of dramatic movement. My friend First Prince Bella realizes that if he takes his time to try across the battlefield at a slow pace, I'm just going to shoot his army apart before he even gets a chance to come to grips to me. So because of that, the first thing he does is he starts sending in all kinds of charges directly into my ranks. The first one he actually sets up a charge with is he charges with Russell Laynell as well as Pyrium, his Dragon Mage of Caldor. He declares a charge against Bugman's Rangers, and I stand my ground because I do have +1 toughness for the leathered rule. I'm also packing great weapons for this unit, plus not to mention, as he charges across the battlefield towards me, I could also use my tomahawk, my throwing axes, and he get 2 shots per rank against him at the same time. So it's looking like a pretty good risk because I'm throwing 20 shots his way. I've decided to do the tomahawks because I'm going to have to do randomization for the hits, so I have a 50-50 chance of hitting his Dragon Mage or his Dragon, whereas with the crossbows I only get 10 shots versus 20 shots with throwing axes, and these guys are strength 4, so there's no real downside for that either. Plus you get the +1 to strength when you use your throwing axes too, so that might be kind of helpful. And as you can see in that photo, as he comes tearing down towards me, I managed to hit, I think of the 20 shots I throw, I think I managed to land, I think 9 of them, and of those 9 that finally do hit, 3 of them hit the dragon and the other 6 hit his Dragon Mage. And unfortunately for him, he was unable to save most of those. I think I managed to put 3 wounds onto him, which is 1 more than he already has, so I managed to kill the Dragon Mage right off the bat, and so the only thing that makes it is the dragon. Now when my friend rolled for the monster reaction chart to see what happens to his dragon, he rolled a 1, which is the reaction, which means that his monster now has stupidity. It doesn't really do much for me anyways because the dragon is now engaged in close combat with Bugman's Rangers, but at the same time though, I managed to kill his Dragon Mage, which is pretty awesome. At the same time, he also charges in Lord Tyrion as well as Lord Tyrion's retinue. The Fellhold Knights and his general charge directly into my clan Greymane, the Chosen of Valaya. He also charges in his Lord Master's Blades into clan Helheim of the Dragonbacks, and he also charges in his Everwardens directly into clan Izmir the Quarrelers. He does attempt to try to do a flank charge on the right hand side with his Everqueen's Rangers, but his White Lions are unable to make the successful roll, so they move up about 4 inches. And at the same time, he also moves up his archers, moves them up normal 5 inches, so that way they can do some long range shooting with their longbows. And that pretty much makes up a very dramatic movement phase for my buddy Fresh Prince Bel-Air. Here's a close-up photo of my friend's Dragon Mage charging directly into Bugman's Rangers, and that Dragon Mage is now dead because the Rangers tomahawked him to death by throwing their hatchets at him and just managed to skewer him to pieces with a whole bunch of throwing axes, which is pretty awesome as well. So his Dragon Mage is dead, which nets me some points, so the only wizard he has left in his army is his Lord of Beasts spellcaster, who's with Tyrion, so that part's kind of nice. As for his stupidity did happen for his Dragon because he rolled the special monster reaction, so the Dragon is stupid, but he is engaged in close combat, so that's really not important. If you also notice too, that little red die with the skull, that's to signify the fact that that Dragon Mage is dead. Now, it is going to be kind of tough to take on this combat, but the way I see it, my Dwarves are armed with great weapons, so that makes them strength 6. They have toughness 5 from liquid fortification, not to mention Joseph Bugman's also in the unit too, so you can cause some pain against the dragon. The Sun Dragon has toughness 5, so which means I'm rolling on 3s, wounding on 3s. He's also got a strength of 5, which means he has to roll 4s to wound. Yeah, it's going to screw with my armor save, but at the same time though, there's a lot more of me than there are of him. I also have ranks as well as a standard, so, you know, things are looking forward in my favor. If any of the things are going to be a monster slayer in my army, it's going to be Joseph's Rangers, Bugman's Rangers, because they're the closest thing I have to that. Here's a close-up of Lord Tyrion and Lord Tyrion's retinue charging directly into Clan Greymane, the Chosen of Valaya. And I'm actually kind of excited to see how this one works, because that is a unit of hammers. I have 20 hammers in that unit. I also have a rune smith who's also in that unit as well. It's got a spell-breaking rune as well. I also have the Master Rune of Valaya, so because I do get +2 dispel attempts against his wizard. But the real big thing I'm really excited for is that because these guys are hammers, they get +2 strength to their attacks, which means they're striking at strength 6, which means whenever they hit a target, they get 4 or 5? They get -3 armor save because of the strength of their attacks. Not to mention, I also have a runesmith in this unit as well, and because of that, they get Forge Fire, I believe is what it's called. I think it's the one that they Forge Fire. That's what gives armor piercing attacks to what they have. So that means that my dwarf hammers are now swinging at -4 AP. And not to mention my champion, which is the champion of this unit as well, is also carrying a rune of cleaving on his weapon, so that gives him a -5 on his AP. So if I direct my attacks against these Silverhelm Knights, they're not going to get an armor save. And especially if I target against Tyrion, who's got a 1-up armor save, that means he has to roll 6s in order to save his armor save. Yeah, he does have a ward save, but it's not very powerful, and there's not much of an issue, especially with the number of attacks that I have, because I have 10, sorry, not 10, I have, what is it, 13 attacks coming from the front rank with the Runesmith, as well as my champion and the hammers, and then I got support attacks in the back rank afterwards. I do have more ranks than him. I have really good armor. I also have I also have a standard bearer and a musician, just like my opponent, and so I'm pretty much liking the odds on this. I'm really excited to see how this combat turns out, because I've never really used hammers before in Warhammer, and so I'm really excited to see exactly what they can do to this unit of Silverhelm Knights. And here's a close-up of the movement phase of the charges taking place against my right-hand flank. Up in the front, you can see Clan Helheim, the Fall of the Dragonbacks, are now engaged that unit of Swordmasters. These Swordmasters do have a lot of attacks, and they do have pretty high strength. They have strength 5 with their great weapons against my toughness of 4, so they will be wounding on 3s. But I also have armor, heavy armor, and I also have shields on these guys as well, so that gives me a 4-up armor, so I'm rolling 6s to save, so that's kind of nice. So that would be helpful. Plus, I have strength 3 against these guys, so, you know, they're just strength 3, you know, high elves with heavy armor, so it should be a pretty balanced fight. I do have more ranks than them. I also have a command group as well, so that should turn out pretty good. Not to mention I also have Grim Warlocks on there as well, who's also pretty deadly. And also, if you notice too, that unit is kind of shrunken down. It's only 10 Swordmasters. I did manage to stand and shoot with my handgunners. I think I managed to kill 4 of them and I'm trying to charge in, so that part was pretty awesome as well. On the far right hand side, that is Clan Izmir. Those are my 18 crossbowmen, and if you notice, that unit of spearmen is down to 4 people. It's 3 spearmen with the command group as well as his battle standard bearer. The rest of the guys got shot to pieces as they charged in. Now, because they're down to a quarter of their normal size, my friend did have to roll a panic check for them, and he had to roll snake eyes for these guys to stick it. So he rolled up his 2d6 first. He managed to fail the test. He didn't get snake eyes, but when he rolled again because he's the battle standard bearer, he got snake eyes, and so these guys managed to secure their charge. I'm not too worried about this. This unit's pretty much neutered for the most part. I only have to worry about a great weapon wielding battle standard bearer. That's about it. And my quarrelers are carrying great weapons themselves, so they're going to go hi-ho on these guys and just chop these guys down to pieces, down to their basic elements. So I'm pretty excited to see the combat on the right-hand flank. And finally, here's a close-up of his units, his archers from the Sad Flutes, as well as his Evergreen's Rangers trying to charge forward, but I was unable to make the charge at that point. Now, in this magic phase, my opponent did try to catch magic, but unfortunately for him, I managed to dispel all of his dice using my runes of spellbreaking. He did try to cast Savage Beast of Horosoph onto Teclis to make him +3 strength and +3 attacks, but I used my level 2 rune of spellbreaking to not only to stop that spell, but I also used a special ability to make sure I broke that spell as well. Ragnar the Spellbreaker, which is my runesmith in my unit of Clan Roadsulker, he let let loose and destroyed that spell, so because of that, his level 2 Lord Beastmaster, all he has is Wiston's Wild Form. So he did try to cast Wiston's Wild Form, but I was able to dispel that as well, so that part was pretty amazing. And during the shooting phase was also kind of lackluster as well. My friend just flubbed his dice really bad. He tried to hit with his longbowman against my Clan Roadsulker, was unable to cause any hits. I think most of his hits didn't even make it. I think he only got 4 or 5 shots managed to hit, and of those 4 or 5 shots, none of them managed to wound. Actually, hold up, one of them did wound, but I was able to armor save it, so his shots were pretty lousy at that point. He did try to shoot with both of his bolt throwers against my cannon in order to destroy the Sorrows of Eld, but unfortunately for him, though, he missed both his shots with the single shot from the bolt thrower, so not much happened there either. So with the magic phase not being much, the same thing with shooting phase being kind of weak, we go directly to the combat phase. Alright, so now here's a photo of the combat phase. This is the fight between the Silverhelm Knights against my my dwarf hammers, and this was an absolute bloodbath. As you can see, I managed to kill seven of those Silverhelm Knights with my hammers, which is pretty amazing at the same time. Managed to just get those guys' armor like it's nobody's business. Tyrion does decide to attack the rest of my unit. He does not decide to attack my runesmith, but concentrates his attack on my rank and file troops. And he does actually chop that unit down pretty good. By the time Tyrion gets done with his breath attack as well as his regular attacks from the Silver Helms because they get to go first. They did, I think, manage to whittle down my unit pretty good. They brought it down to about half strength. I think they end up killing 11 of my hammers, so that part was kind of sad to see that go. Most of those attacks, of course, were from Tyrion, was the guy who was mainly doing the hits on those. Both of the attacks from his Sunfang sword as well as the breath weapon that he popped, which was a strength 4 breath weapon against my dwarf hammer, so that part was kind of sad. However, in the end, though, I directed most of my attacks from my runesmith as well as the rest of my hammers into the regular files. I did manage to put 2 wounds onto Tyrion, so that part was kind of cool. But my hammers, though, man, they just chopped down those Silverhelm Knights like it's nobody's business. I think my opponent wins combat because of all the wounds he inflicts on me, but it doesn't really matter though because I am stubborn. I am playing hammers, so because of that, they don't have to worry about taking any deductions from their leadership tests, and they managed to pass and they managed to hold their ground, which was pretty awesome because these guys just took a huge face charge from a very powerful combat character against a unit of charging knights. So I'm pretty happy with the result of that attack. So good job for my clan Greymane. Those guys are bad. Meanwhile, on the right-hand flank of my army, I do apologize for the blurriness of this photo. I do apologize that for ahead of time. The fight between the Swordmasters as well as my Thunderers was totally one-sided. I managed to kill 5 of those guys, and they all managed to kill 3 of my Thunderers as well, which ended up being pretty good because the hand weapons and shield combo that I had was kind of really awesome. And just again, my friend Fresh Prince Belair, he did nothing wrong when he did this attack. It's just that when he rolled his dice, he just really flubbed his rolls. Even when he got the re-rolls for the Always Strike First, he was just kind of rolling a bunch of 1s and 2s, so was unable to do much in terms of hitting him. When it came to the wounds, though, his wounds did, penetrate and kill a couple of my Thunderers, which was pretty good, but for the most part, it was pretty lackluster in the end. So in the end, I believe I had a combat score of, I had 5 kills, I think I had 2 ranks, that's 7, plus my banner made it 8. He charged as well as killed 3, so I think he had a 4. And then he also had his banner, which is 5, so I beat him by 2. So because of that, my friend has to take a break test. And unfortunately for my friend, he failed his break test and he had to run. When he went to roll to see how far he ran 4 inches. And when I rolled my 2d6 minus 1 to see how far I went 6 inches. So because of that, my dwarves just ran forward and ended up just chopping down the rest of those sword masters like it's nobody's business. So that part was absolutely atrocious for my opponent to go through. So that part was kind of cool to see that happen. Meanwhile, the combat between the Quarrelers as well as my opponent's Spearmen was totally one-sided. My friend was unable to cause any wounds, really. Like I said, he just flubbed his rolls. When it came to hits, not very many of them hit. When it came to his rolling his wounds, I think he only rolled 1s for the character that was armed with a great weapon, so he was unable to cause any wounds. And needless to say, my great weapon-wielding Quarrelers just chopped him down to pieces, and because of that, they just stand their ground because they just destroyed the rest of that unit. So not much was happening over there. So my right-hand flank is now secure for the most part. Meanwhile, the combat between the Dragon Pyrium against my unit of Bugman's Rangers was totally one-sided. Like I said before, my friend just had really bad luck this battle. He did everything right like he was supposed to, and when you think about it, dragons going up against dwarves should be pretty good combat. Unfortunately for him, though, he's just unable to cause much wounds. I think he managed to kill one of my dwarves, is what he ended up doing, and that's including his breath attack. He actually launched his fire breath attack, and when he rolled to see how many hits he got snake eyes. So they only got 2 hits from his breath attack. His thunder attack, I believe it was his thunder stomp too, that was the one that actually managed to kill my one dwarf from the Rangers when he ended up doing it. The rest of his attack he just flubbed. Either he didn't hit or he didn't roll very well to wound. So because of that, not much happened. Needless to say, is when my dwarves went back to counterattack, they just chopped into pieces with some great weapons attacks, as well as Joseph Bugman with his runic weapon. It was just too much for Pyrion to handle, and so because of that, dragon just gets chopped down by my Rangers. So that part was pretty cool as well. Pretty sad for my buddy Fresh Prince Belair, but pretty awesome for me. I'm really liking the way my army is operating so far, even though my friend's dice are totally abandoning him at this point. So with the end of the combat phase, we go directly to the bottom of turn number 2 for the Dwarves. And that takes us directly to the move phase for turn number 2 for the Dwarves. And as you can see, I really don't do any movement for the most part. I keep my Clan Roadstoker directly where they're at because there's no need to from the move. Looking back now on my tactic to put my war machines ahead of my infantry forces, I now realize that I made a huge mistake by doing that, because with that great cannon in the way and my catapult so close to my right hand side for my Gressthor, it pretty much means that my unit of Clan Roadstoker can't move. I pretty much restricted myself to staying in one spot. So looking back now, I can realize why you don't put your war machines up front like in armies used to do back in the old days. So that would be the last time I use that tactic, because my Clan Roadstoker can't really do much of anything. Like I said before, all the combat's taking place on the flanks in this particular battle. So I'm never doing that again, because if I didn't have my cannon in the way, I could have had an excellent flank charge with Clan Roadsucker against that right-hand flank of those Silverhelm Knights with Tyrion. And then I could have challenged with my general and just chopped down Tyrion to his basic elements, but I didn't do that because that great cannon is in the way, so never going to do that ever again. So that was kind of sad. My Quarrelers, as well as my Thunderers, they say exactly what they are because they are a move or fire army, so I'm not going to do that any movement with them, so that way they can shoot in the shooting phase. The only real dramatic movement I do is with Bugman's Rangers. I move them up and march them 6 inches because, you know, they only have movement 3, so movement 6. I march them along the forest and left-hand side, so that way they can get a good charge flank into the left-hand flank of Tyrion, those Silverhelms, if I'm lucky, just because you know, Tyrion might just break through this unit. If Tyrion does break through my Clan Greymane, he could overrun them and destroy them and come back, and he can hit me in the back with my Clan Roadsucker, which would be really bad. But I think the only thing I have going for me in that case is that I do have a huge horde of 40 Dwarf Warriors with a Runesmith and my general, so hopefully I can outlast them and just beat them through attrition at that point. The only real threats I really have to worry about are those White Lions on the right hand side, those archers in the center, as well as those bolt throwers. But for the most part though, that pretty much makes it the move phase on this one. And here's a close-up of Joseph Bugman and Bugman's Rangers moving as quickly as they possibly can across the battlefield to the left-hand flank of my army to engage Tyrion. And as you can see there, Tyrion and his Silverhelm Knight battle standard bearer and his level 2 casting lore of Beast Wizard are still engaged with Clan Greymane, the Chosen of Elia. So with that being said, we skip the magic phase because I'm dwarves, and dwarves do not use magic because it's weak, and we go directly to the shooting phase, which in my opinion is the real dwarf magic phase. Alright, in the shooting phase, I take aim with my Grudge Thrower, the Rememberer. I do a direct, try to put the template directly over the head of one of the war machines. Unfortunately for me though, I do scatter 2 inches to the back of it, so because of that, I don't manage to land the hole right in the middle of the war machine, so that was kind of tragic. But I do manage to get the blast template off on the crew members, which is pretty cool as well, so that's what ended up happening there. However, what ended up kind of working out really well for me, I do manage to kill one of the crew members of that Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower on the left-hand side, so now that's down 1 crew member. But my Great Cannon, the Sorrows of El, takes aim with the cannon, opens fire, and I managed to direct hit that war machine on the right-hand side. So because of that, when I roll my d6 to see how much damage I do, I roll a 5. I just blow up that second Fallen Legions of Avelorn, so that part's kind of cool. I do only have one more. My opponent does have 1 Bolt Thrower still left, but at the same time, I really can't do much of anything because most of my army is still doing pretty good. So, you know, I'll take whatever I can get at this point because bolt throwers are dangerous. And continuing on the shooting phase, since the white lines are out of range of the vision arc for my handgunners, I take aim with Clan Helheim, the Fallen, the Dragonbacks. I have them open up with their Thunderers against that unit of archers. I do manage to kill 6 of those guys, so that part was kind of cool. Our friend First Prince Olair rolled to see if they passed their panic check, and they had no problem. I think he rolled like a 7, so because of that, those archers are not going anywhere. They're just going to stand their ground. However, when it came to the shooting phase with my Quarrelers, Clan Izmir, I have 12 shots with my crossbows, and I open up on that unit of White Lions. And of those 12 shots, all 12 hit. And of the 12 that hit, 11 actually wounded. And of the 11 that wounded, my friend First Prince Belair rolled 10 dice to see what would happen. I'd never seen so many 1s and 2s in my life. He ended up losing 10 of his White Lions, which is absolutely atrocious. And to make matters worse, because it drops him down to 25%, almost to a third, he has to roll for his panic check, and he fails his panic check and runs back 11 inches, and so his White Lions are running for the hills. So that part was absolutely devastating to see that happen for him during the shooting phase. Like I said, my friend Fresh Prince Belair, his dice just abandoned him during this portion of the battle, and it was just absolutely atrocious to see how much fail he was getting. And I felt really bad for him because, you know, that's never good. I mean, we've all had those battles where our dice just kind of forsaken us, and that's pretty much what happened to my friend Fresh Prince Belair, so that part was kind of sad. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. Alright, so now we go directly to the combat phase, and as you can see in this photo, I did manage to win this combat. The way I was able to do it is I issued a challenge with my Runesmith against Tyrion. And the reason why I did that is so that way Tyrion's attacks had to be solely concentrated onto my Runesmith and not on the rest of the units. So that part kind of worked out. I did lose my Runesmith, however, he did get killed by Tyrion. Tyrion killed him pretty quickly. However, when I got to counterattack with the Guardian of the Keeper of the Gate, which is my champion, as well as the rest of my hammers, I concentrate most of my attacks attacks directly into Tyrion. I think I had, 7 attacks. That's right, it was 7 attacks going directly into him. And because these guys have -3 to armor saves, I managed to put those wounds onto Tyrion. I think I managed to wound him 4 times. He only passed 1 of his armor saves with his ward save, the other 3 slipped through. And so because of that, Tyrion got destroyed. And then the rest of the supporting attacks went against his mage and his silver helm, and they just went directly through that armor and managed to kill them. I think I lost a handful of hammers. I think I lost 3 or 4 of them in the process of doing so. But it didn't really matter in the end because my opponent, Fresh Prince Bel-Air's unit, got vaporized in the combat phase, so that part was pretty epic. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us directly to the end of the game. My friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air is kind of frustrated at this point because his dice have been failing him so bad. The only thing he does have left is his archers and 5 white lions and 1 bolt thrower, and I have so many of my dwarves still left over, he realizes he can't really win. So because of that, he concedes the game at this point. And I really don't blame him because it's never fun when your dice just abandon you like that in the middle of a battle. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the after action report because this battle report is now officially over.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us directly to the after action report. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the after action report for Warhammer the Golden Age, battle report number 39, and it ended being a victory for yours truly. So when it comes to the losses real quick, I only lost 2 things in my entire army. That is one of my runesmiths, Torshtig Blackbriar, and the Decemberist of Winter's Pass, which is my organ gun. My friend Fresh Prince Bel-Air, however, he lost Tyrion, Teclis, Tanis Laenel, Ross Laenel, Imperium. He lost the Lord Master's Blades, the Everwardens, Lord Tyrion's Retinue, and one of the falling leaves of Avelorn. And all I gotta say about this is that one thing and one thing only won me this battle, and that one thing was luck. That was the only thing that allowed me to win this battle at all. For the most part, Fresh Prince Bel-Air, man, he was a real trooper during this battle report because his dice absolutely abandoned him during this battle report. I've never seen so many low rolls in my life with some high strength and high hitting things. I mean, he was rolling like a bunch of 1s and 2s like it was going out of style, so it was just really bad for him. And, you know, credit to him for just keeping on going and just soldiering through because some of those die rolls that he had, especially the fight between his Dragon Mage against my Bugman's Rangers, I mean, that was absolutely demoralizing, and I would have quit early. I wouldn't have blamed him either if he had done that because, you know, that's absolutely frustrating when that happens. On the other hand, however, my dice on the other hand were actually on fire this entire time. I was rolling a bunch of 5s and 6s like it was nobody's business, especially when it came to my shooting, so that had a lot to do with whittling down his forces for the most part. And once again, dwarf armies are very high strength, very high toughness, and that combination of high toughness and strength is no joke whatsoever. My high strength attacks are good all throughout my entire army. I have good toughness as a standard for all my army as well, and it was amazing. You can really see it take place, especially during the combat phases. Every single time I had a fight against my opponent, I was just going right through his toughness 3, and at the same time, whenever he tried to attack against me, he had to go up against my base of toughness 4, so it was very difficult for him to kind of kill my units, especially against enemy shooting, which is kind of neat. However, probably like the best combat that took place, however, for me was the combat between Bugman's Rangers as well as against the Dragon Mage of Caldor. That fight was absolutely amazing. I've never used Joseph Bugman or his Rangers before and at all. This is the very first time I got to use it. And in my opinion, these guys are absolutely the best monster killers out there because they have high strength attacks, and if you get a really good roll for your liquid fortification, they have a really good toughness as well. Not to mention, they also are immune to psychology for fear and terror when Joseph Bugman is with them, and so you really can't go wrong. I mean, Slayers are good and all, but I mean, Bugman's Rangers, I mean, they can shoot, and they can also throw throwing axes, and use great weapons, and have shields and armor, and have command groups too, so, you know, and they're scouts as well. So in my opinion, Bugman's Rangers are going to always be part of my army in some way or shape if I can from now on, because that unit's just too good. And I'm also astounded by how good hammers are. Those guys are really awesome. I love how tough they are with their toughness and their armor saves. I love their stubborn special rule, and more importantly, I love how deadly they are, especially with their AP bonuses when you give them a runesmith. It just makes them absolutely deadly to see what they can do. Those guys chopped down Tyrion all by the lonesome, and it was amazing to watch them working and just kind of chopping things apart at that point. So that part was kind of cool. On the flip side, my tactic of using war machines in the front of my army and using the rest of my infantry behind them was a really bad idea, and the reason why is because it prevented my main unit of warriors, Clan Roadsulker, and my general and my other runesmith from doing anything for the most part. They were just kind of stuck back there and they couldn't really move out, so it was a real rookie mistake, and I'm never going to make that same mistake ever again. Needless to say though, I do love this army. I love the way it's performing. They're strong and tough. They never let magic get to them, which is really good to me because I've never really cared for the magic phase even since the first days of Warhammer. So these are all qualities I really like, and they're my go-to army right now. And not to mention they're also beautifully painted by yours truly, so that's another additional bonus as well. In the end, this was an amazing game against a really good opponent, and I am looking forward to the rematch on this one. So that's good to do for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Google+, as well as blogger.com for all the latest and greatest news about the hobby. That's good to do for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. Peace out. We'll catch you guys in the next one.